Hey, Slate listeners. I'm Christina Cauterucci, the host of Slow Burn, Gays Against Briggs. I want to tell you about a special event we're doing at the Tribeca Film Festival in New York City on June 13th. To celebrate this new season of Slow Burn and Pride Month, we're hosting an exclusive live taping of the show with special guests, including civil rights activist and Black Lives Matter organizer DeRay McKesson, comedian and singer Esther Fallick, Eric Marcus, the host of Making Gay History, and Sam Feder, director of the Netflix documentary Disclosure, about the depiction of trans people in film and television. We'll dive deeper into this season and talk about the lasting impact of the Briggs Initiative and the continued fight over LGBTQ rights in schools. It'll be the perfect way to celebrate Pride Month this June with LGBTQ stories and voices across generations. Again, that's June 13th at the Tribeca Film Festival in New York. You can get tickets now at tribecafilm.com/slowburn. Hope to see you there.
Singer-songwriter Laura Jane Grace vividly remembers the first time she felt like a club ripped her off.
The 930 Club was this historic club in our eyes, and we knew it from, the likes of Ian MacKaye and Fugazi and Minor Threat and the whole Discord record scenes.
At the time, she was fronting the punk band Against Me. You might know their 2007 hit Thrash Unreal or the 2014 transitioning anthem True Trans Soul Rebel. Anyway, on an early tour, the 930 Club wanted a cut of their merchandise sales.
We're literally selling our T-shirts for $8, and the venue's like, yeah, we're going to take a cut of that.
Laura Jane says sometimes the merch cuts are so steep that by the time everyone else has been paid, booking agents, managers, accountants, artists can barely hope to break even, or sometimes are stuck paying to play.
That's the way you really got to judge what's happening, is that they'll give you a guarantee of X amount of money. But if you're giving X amount of back in money that is yours, that's really just your guarantee getting chopped in half.
So she started a petition against merch fees. It's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to her. Because last year, ticket and promotion company Live Nation agreed to drop merch fees at its club-size venues. It was a win. But now, escalating outrage around ticketing fees, outdated technology, and monopolistic behavior have landed Live Nation and its subsidiary Ticketmaster in the government's crosshairs.
The Department of Justice wants the courts to break up Live Nation. That's the parent company of Ticketmaster and the biggest concert promoter in the U.S.
Music fans around the world have complained for years that they're paying over the odds and have been calling for a re-examination of Live Nation's purchase of Ticketmaster in 2010, especially after the botched sale of the tickets for Taylor Swift's 2022 concert.
Then, as if to add insult to injury, just last week, the company announced a data breach of 500 million of its customers. So today on the show, what might the music business, for artists and fans alike, look like without this massive company? We talked to Laura Jane Grace about making music in 2024 and what it takes for a touring artist to get by. I'm Lizzie O'Leary, and you're listening to What Next TBD, a show about technology, power, and how the future will be determined. Stick around. Reboot your credit card with Apple Card, the only credit card designed for iPhone. It gives you up to 3% daily cash back on every purchase. It's real cash that never expires or loses value. Apply for Apple Card in the Wallet app on iPhone. Apple Card issued by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, Salt Lake City branch, subject to credit approval. Daily cash is available via Apple Cash Card issued by Green Dot Bank, member FDIC, or as a statement credit. Terms and more at applecard.com. Reboot your credit card with Apple Card, the only credit card designed for iPhone. It gives you up to 3% daily cash back on every purchase. It's real cash that never expires or loses value. Apply for Apple Card in the Wallet app on iPhone. Apple Card issued by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, Salt Lake City branch, subject to credit approval. Daily cash is available via Apple Cash Card issued by Green Dot Bank, member FDIC, or as a statement credit. Terms and more at applecard.com. On May 23rd, the Justice Department, along with 30 state and district attorneys general, filed a lawsuit against Live Nation Entertainment and its subsidiary Ticketmaster. It says the company is anti-competitive and has an illegal monopoly in the live concert industry.
With exclusive agreements that cover more than 70% of concert ticket sales at major concert venues across the country, Ticketmaster can impose a seemingly endless list of fees on fans. Those include...
Attorney General Merrick Garland said Live Nation's practices have kept music from being accessible to everyone.
People always remember the first time that they were transformed by live music. I still remember, as a senior in college, going to a Bonnie Raitt concert and seeing a then up-and-coming musician named Bruce Springsteen play as a warm-up act. We all knew that we had just seen the future of rock and roll. The Justice Department filed this lawsuit on behalf of fans who should be able to go to concerts without a monopoly standing in their way.
But it's not just fans who've been frustrated by Live Nation. It's artists, too. What did you think when you first heard that the government was suing Ticketmaster and Live Nation?
You know, on the one hand, you're like, oh, cool, wouldn't it be rad if somebody did something? But I feel like no matter what happens, it'll always be the artist that gets screwed over. It's always rigged against the artist. It's always the artist that, like, is the one that's expected to work for free if anyone needs to work for free. It's always the artist who is the one who is on the losing side of the language of the law, of a contract. And that's what it is. You know, they work these deals, they write out these contracts. Like, every promoter, every venue is like this, where the artist is at a disadvantage, where it's the same thing as like Apple, you know, or Spotify or whoever sending you their updated terms of agreement. And it's like this legalese language that you can't possibly understand. And you really are like put in this position where you have no choice but to click agree, you know, because again, what other choice do you have? So that's the way I feel like it's always going to be, is there's going to be some other thing that happens that, you know, puts the artist at the losing end of it. Because again, it's not just Live Nation. It's not just Ticketmaster. It's practices across the board in the industry.
When you're touring, do you consciously think about like, oh, this is a Live Nation Ticketmaster venue and I don't want to play there? Or do you not think about that?
No, I usually do not. Yeah, I do not usually. Frankly, if you're thinking about it in those terms, hypothetically, you could be thinking like, well, that venue, because it's that type of promoter, they're usually easier to rip off the merch rate for. You know, like it's more in those terms, not just like, oh, it sucks they're that venue. No, it's more like if this venue tries to rip us off with a merch rate, let's steal something from them. You know, like let's just get our fair share back. And then you're otherwise thinking about it of like, well, is the stage good? Does the stage sound good? Is there a bathroom backstage? Bare minimums, like, you know, niceties or like comforts and stuff is what you're usually thinking about as an artist.
The DOJ's case against Ticketmaster had been brewing for a while, arguably because of one very specific pop star.
I stay out too late. Got nothing in my brain.
In November of 2022, Taylor Swift announced her Eras tour on Good Morning America.
Good morning, America. It's Taylor. I wanted to tell you something that I've been so excited about for a really long time, have been planning for ages, and I finally get to tell you I'm going back on tour.
And then all hell broke loose.
Oh my God.
Currently 7,929th in line.
The closest that you can freaking get.
I almost got floor seats on the red tour. That cost $500, like flat.
Yes, your order is complete.
Ticketmaster just canceled the general sale for tomorrow. I don't have any other details. This is all I have at the moment.
Taylor Swift fans trying to buy pre-sale tickets to the tour were met with ridiculously long waits, sky-high prices, and in many cases, no tickets at all. Then, a group of Swifties filed a class action lawsuit in December of that year, claiming that Ticketmaster, quote, knowingly misled millions of fans. The case was eventually dropped. But the collective power of the Swifties and their anger at Ticketmaster seemed to shift how the company was regarded more broadly. You could make an argument that we are here, and I mean here in the sense of the Ticketmaster case, because of Taylor Swift. But I wonder, if Taylor Swift is here, where does that leave every other musician? Because it seems like the people who are getting the most hurt are smaller musicians. And after all, you've been doing this for like 30 years. You are not a tiny name.
That's kind of like part of the fallacy that I find so frustrating. I had this, there was a big issue recently around the company that printed our T-shirts and stuff like that with their workers, a screen printing shop. The workers unionized, right? The owners of the screen printing shop are friends of mine, had a huge falling out with their workers, ended up selling the company. It was a mess, right? And as an artist, I was caught in the middle of that, where it's like, okay, well, like you're our supply chain for like, this is what we make a living off of, selling T-shirts. And it's interesting being in the middle of a dynamic where, yes, like I support workers' rights to unionize, but then being in a position where you realize, like, as a worker, I don't have a right to unionize. I cannot unionize within my record label with the other artists on my record label. And while there is such thing as a musicians union, it's not like Taylor Swift is going to go on strike because Laura Jane Grace isn't getting their fair guarantee for a show or has to, like work in subpar conditions, right? Like it doesn't work the same way unions work for any other industry. So artists are just continually vulnerable because we have no ability to really organize and make specific demands. So how can you have any power to negotiate?
The argument that Live Nation Ticketmaster would make is that it's good for venues and promoters and managers and ticketers to have this kind of like vertical integration. And I wonder how you've seen that change as you've been on the road.
I mean, right away as an artist, I would be like, what does vertical integration mean? That's just, again, it's one of those legalese terms type thing to like, what does that mean to an artist? Like, what does that mean in the day-to-day life of an artist when it comes to like, this is the guarantee, this is the money on the table, like talk about it really plainly. To me, it sounds like Ronald Reagan, trickle down economics or something like that, which I did not come into the music industry from the standpoint of a capitalist. Like I came into it from an anti-capitalist standpoint and an artist standpoint and wanting to do what is always best for the music, and it's a trip trying to navigate it.
When we come back, the reality of being a touring musician in 2024. And why killing Ticketmaster might not make a difference.
How much do you think you're paying in subscriptions every month? The answer is probably more than you think. Over 74% of people have subscriptions they've forgotten about. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. With Rocket Money, you'll have a clear view of your subscriptions, and if you see something you don't want, Rocket Money can help you cancel it with a few taps. They'll even try to negotiate lower bills for you, by up to 20%. Just submit a picture of your bill, and they'll take care of the rest. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/helpmesave. That's rocketmoney.com/helpmesave. rocketmoney.com/helpmesave.
Raise your hand if you are burnt out.
If email is something that gives you like a shiver in your spine.
You are not alone. I'm Shirley Leung, host of Say More from the Boston Globe. Our new series is Beating Burnout. We'll hear from Cal Newport, Krista Tippett, and more. We'll talk about breaking bad habits and forming new ones.
The cure for burnout is all of us caring for each other.
Say More from the Boston Globe. Find us wherever you get your podcasts.
I think a lot of people don't understand at all the basics of how a touring musician's budget works. Can you break down the economics of a gig?
I was just out on the road for this past month, right? And I'm kind of starting over as a touring artist, like if you look at my band or my musical career as a business, which I find kind of crass, but like, let's look at it like that. I was messed up by the pandemic, just by everybody else. So restarting, right? So him going out with, just this past year with a band again, with a drummer and a bass player, and then my wife as well singing. And to make it work, my wife is not only singing with us, but they're also selling merch. And then we've had a tour manager and then one crew person. I do not own a van, so rent a Mercedes Sprinter van from a place called Bandigo here in Chicago. May 20th to the 27th was like $2,500. So I'm not sure what that breaks down for a week, but you're looking at like $2,500 to $3,000 a week for van rental or something like that. Tour manager, front of house person does $400 a day. That's also on top of that is like a $30 a day per diem. You have hotel rooms for, 6 people. My wife and I share a room. Mikey and Matt, who are drummer and bass player, share a room, but then the 2 crew people want their own room. So, that's 4 hotel rooms, $200 a night, right? Per room. And we're staying at Hampton Inns. So, your basic costs per day, like when we did the budget for this tour with all of the guarantees, was a loss to do the tour. And you look at that and you're like, but it's barely in a loss. It's barely red, right? So you have to look at that and be like, well, with merch sales, that's where we'll make the money. So anytime a promoter or club is trying to take that merch rate, they're taking directly from what the artist is going to get.
How has that, or has it, changed over time? Because the way people listen to music now is so different than the way they listened to music in, say, the late 90s.
It hasn't changed is the thing. Just like, I've seen small changes as far as like the expectations of percentages that people are taking, because like an LP you're buying off of your record label for like $12, $13, $14 sometimes. You're selling it for $10. You have to take out the shipping of that, right? So if you're talking about $4 being divided up and the promoter is taking like 10 to 15% of that, your manager's taking another 15 to 20%, business manager's taking 5%, like you're getting $1 to split 4 ways, maybe between band members off of selling a single LP, right? Or sometimes you're selling music at a loss for those reasons, right? And you're just hoping you make up for it with the t-shirts and the hoodies, and it's degrading in so many ways, because like as an artist, it's just continually reinforced that your music has no value, like the consumers are more than happy to support Spotify and Apple Music and pay their $10 a month. And those companies can reap huge profits while you get fucking pennies, just pennies on the dollar. And everyone's fine with that. And you then are just like a glorified t-shirt salesperson.
What does an ideal ticketing system look like to you? Like, how do you want people to come see your shows?
Transparency would help. Like, I think you would be hard pressed to find a single artist who understands the way ticketing fees work and the way the fees are working for the tickets that they're selling, each night.
How do they work for you? Do you know?
I do not know. I do not know what the actual ticket fees being added on are, because I'm not buying the tickets from Ticketmaster, right? I'm not going on those websites. And I've honestly have never done it. I've never bought it. I have never bought a single ticket from Ticketmaster. I have to say
on
I
principle,
just realized
or by happenstance?
By happenstance. Like, I guess like when I'm thinking about it now, because I've been in a band since I was like in my teens, and I just then have always known the people in other bands if I want to go to a show, or people at the venues or whatever, like, or buy it at the door, like directly from the venue. I'm not trying to say I'm like, I don't pay for tickets, or whatever. But I've never gone on a website other than to, I guess, once or twice to see the way it actually works or something like that. But I've never gone through the process.
I'm trying to think about what this world might look like, your touring world might look like if this suit is successful. Have you thought about that?
Well, again, I don't think it will change that much. That's what's unfortunate. Because unless the government is saying it is illegal for you to charge a merch rate, it means nothing. It just means, like, what does that mean? How are they going to actually change those big business practices? Like, if you were to say, okay, I'm the promoter and I'm the venue, and these are our costs to make the show happen, right? And you break it down like in a way like where artists didn't have to go through and find where they're hiding the costs or hiding money or like, overcharging you for things. Like, it's just like, I don't know how you can navigate this stuff when people are so clearly out to rip each other off most of the time.
What kind of a difference would you need to see in the way the system works to have more faith in it, to have any faith in it?
I don't know, because just it's so much a part of it and it's so ingrained in it that I don't know any difference at this point. Like it oftentimes it makes you feel like a mercenary, right? And it makes you look at everyone else like mercenaries, like everyone is in it for themselves. And like you get that feeling really as an artist, especially with all the people behind the scenes, like with the infrastructure like that, where they view you in that way of it's more about protecting their job because they can do it forever as long as they've got a fresh supply of artists coming in, and you're kind of expendable then. There will always be another act to draw once you stop drawing.
So it doesn't sound like you're very optimistic about touring musicians making a living.
Well, no, I mean, I think it's possible, like I think that's a different conversation. Like, how do you make a living as a touring musician? Well, you have to like diversify your income streams and you have to do a lot of different things, like you can't just sell the t-shirts. You have to also do a Patreon, you have to do a Cameo, and you have to like have a body of work to like start to eventually be receiving money from publishing and stuff like that, and to a place where it's enough to matter in any way, but you need all those things coming out, and then you need an online merch business, and then you need to just like figure out different ways to make money, but there's no single thing that you can lean on as, well, that's how you do it.
Did you ever think when you were playing punk music in 1997 that you'd be having a conversation about diversifying your merch business?
Well, no, yes and no. I don't know. Like, on the one hand, because I've always been like staunchly anti-capitalist, it's always given me the attitude of like, let's talk about money really transparently whenever I go on tour, or like with the people that I work with. And like, let me tell you exactly what we made, exactly how it's being broken down and who's receiving what. Even within like bands that when we would start out touring, like people would call me crazy because I would take the whole show guarantee and split it equally between all the bands on the bill, as opposed to, the opener gets 100, the main support gets 5, and then us, like get the lion's share. Like that was never my style. Eventually people like convinced me that you can't do it like that, and that, but I've always tried to approach it from ways that other people have said don't make sense.
Laura Jane Grace, thank you so much for talking with me.
My pleasure. Thank you for drawing attention to these issues.
Laura Jane Grace is a musician, singer, and songwriter. And that is it for our show today. What Next TBD is produced by Evan Campbell, Patrick Fort, and Shayna Roth. Our show is edited by Paige Osborne. Alicia Montgomery is vice president of audio for Slate. And TBD is part of the larger What Next family. And if you like what you listen to today, the single best way to support our work is to join Slate Plus. Just head on over to slate.com/whatnextplus to sign up. All right, we'll be back next week with more episodes. I'm Lizzie O'Leary. Thanks for listening.